This is me, Christine Palmer of the Greater Philadelphia chapter.
Hi, this is Debbie Wunder, president of the Diabetes Action Network.
Hi, this is Anil, Executive Director of Blindness Initiatives for the National Federation of the Blind.
And you're listening to White Canes Connect.
Hey there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect, presented by the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. My name is David Goldstein. I am the first vice president of the affiliate, as well as treasurer of both the Keystone chapter and the Pennsylvania Association of Blind Merchants. Joining me today is Keystone chapter's second vice president and White Canes Connect creator, Lisa Bryant. Lisa, Happy New Year, and what do we have on tap?
Happy New Year to you. And I think this is a great way to kick off a new year, talking about good, healthy goals. We're talking diabetes. And Christine Palmer of our Greater Philadelphia chapter has taken the lead in starting a diabetes support group here in Pennsylvania. So we have her on, as well as Debbie Wunder, who is president of the national division within the NFB of the Diabetes Action Network, and Anil Lewis, who is second vice president of the network, but also executive director at our national office.
It really was a great conversation. And as Christine says during the interview, she's talking about she's taken steps growing. And if you go back, and I'll link to it in the show notes, when she was first on a couple of years ago, right after our state convention in Harrisburg at the time, how powerful her interview was and how powerful the state convention was to her. And now look at where it's got her. She's done a lot of great things in the short period of time.
Yeah, she really has. And it's also great that we have the infrastructure within the NFB to support efforts like hers. So without further ado, let's hear from Christine, Debbie, and Anil.
Christine, Debbie, and Anil, thanks so much for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you for having us, David and Lisa.
Definitely my pleasure. Glad to be here.
Welcome, all of you. I feel like we have a great sort of geographical diversity here. We have our hometown girl, Christine from Philly. Debbie, you're out there in Missouri. And Anil, we've got you representing national from Baltimore. Thank you all for being on the show and talking about a very, very important topic. Primarily, we wanted to help Christine get the word out about the new diabetes support group starting here out of the Pennsylvania affiliate. But that is, I guess, kind of the newest baby in the family of a larger division within the National Federation of the Blind, known as the Diabetes Action Network, or DAN, as we always love our acronyms. And Debbie, you are president of DAN?
Yes, I sure am. I have the pleasure of being president.
And Anil, you are a board member.
Yes, I'm a board member, the second vice president of the Diabetes Action Network.
Debbie, you are president of DAN, and we'd love to hear first a little bit about you and the history around DAN, how it came to be.
I joined the National Federation of the Blind back in 1983. Attended my first national convention that summer. And although I was not diagnosed yet with diabetes, I had an interest because several people in my on my dad's side of the family were diabetic. And I was hoping never to travel that journey, but I did anyway. So the DAN has been around for, as far as I know, a little over 40 years. I am not sure of the year of its inception, but it is a group of federationists who, of course, care about diabetes for one reason or another. Either they themselves are diabetic, or they have a loved one who is, or a friend. And so we're a group coming together to try to help one another throughout that journey with information and what have you.
And I know that you and Christine met, I believe, for the first time at last year's national convention. You had a conversation that led us to where we are now. So Christine, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
I met Miss Debbie, and when we went to New Orleans, and I went to our seminar, the Diabetes Action Network, and so I joined because that's something that I'm a diabetic, and I wanted to know more about it, and how can I control it, et cetera, et cetera. So last year, which was in Houston, Texas, I was sitting in a seminar, and someone asked Miss Debbie, "Oh, do Pennsylvania have a division?" And Miss Debbie turned and said, "Well, Christine, do y'all have one in Pennsylvania?" So I said, "No, we don't." So I got to thinking, and a couple months later, I called Miss Debbie and I asked her. So she said, talk it over with your president, and which I did. I talked it over with Lynn Heights, which is the Pennsylvania affiliate president, and also talked to Miss Denise Brown, which is my president for Greater Philadelphia chapter, because, Denise sees me a little bit more. So I just wanted to make sure I can do it. And when we went to the state convention in Harrisburg, that's when I presented on the platform a Dan group.
And I want to make sure we talk about how that first meeting went. But Christine brought up a good point in telling us, sort of the chain of command or the protocol. Anil, I wonder if you could sort of help us, and for anyone outside of the Federation in particular, understand the structure of how a division comes to be. And what's the difference even? Because Christine is starting what's known as a support group, but Dan is an actual division. So tell us how that all, just kind of break down the structure of how one even becomes a division and how a support group becomes a division.
Sure, be happy to. First, I want to commend Christine for becoming the change that you want to see. I love the story of that being presented to you, and then rather than looking around for someone to take charge and lead it, you decided to lead it. So that's very nice. The National Federation of the Blind is a nationwide organization, and our national headquarters is located in Baltimore. We have affiliates in all 50 states, District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico, and all of those affiliates are autonomous nonprofits, but linked to our national organization through a charter. So in order for us to really be that transformative membership organization of blind people across the country, we have a variety of different strategies. And one of those strategies is we establish divisions around special interests so that we can concentrate the energy and the resources of individuals like Christine, Debbie, and myself, who really want to focus a little more attention on one specific issue related to blindness. So in the instance of the Diabetes Action Network, that is a division within the National Federation of the Blind that's focusing on meeting the needs and empowering blind people who have diabetes, and facilitating gatherings that help bring that collective action into play. So the difference between the division, which is in this case is on a national level, and sometimes some state affiliates establish divisions within the state for that same purpose. But the difference between Pennsylvania starting a division rather than a support group is that the divisions require a lot more effort and energy, and they have a hierarchy. So divisions have a constitution, and it has to align with the national constitution. And if it's established on a state level, it has to align with the affiliate constitution. You have to elect officers, and there's a lot more of the administrative overhead with respect to establishing it. But the support group allows individuals with that, desire to really create change to come together with all of the bureaucratic infrastructure and really do some work around interacting with people to create, real impact. So I applaud you. So it's a great way to start. You get individuals who have that as a concern, who want to dedicate some time and energy toward meeting that need. And then if necessary, right, if you get to a place where it needs to be more formal and needs to have more of that administrative infrastructure, then you can always petition to start the division.
The great thing is all of that does not have to be in place before anything happens. So people can still get information, still get resources, even without being, an official division. Debbie, as president, give us a sense of what a typical meeting is like?
Well, our board meets once a month, and we talk about, what it is that what projects we're working on. For instance, we have a seminar coming up in the spring. So a lot of business things, but in a group such as what Christine is working on starting, it's everything about their hopes and their dreams, and they're supporting one another and sharing information. It doesn't have to be so formal. It's sitting around and saying, I'm having this struggle, and then Christine can say, well, we got a strategy for that, and share that information. And by being a group, they come under the DAN as well. And if they're having a struggle or a question, they can always reach out to the DAN board, and we are more than happy to help.
That is something I wanted to go into a little deeper, is just how the division from a national level comes alongside the support groups and the other divisions. But Christine, you mentioned the first meeting at our state convention in November in Harrisburg. How did that go?
It went well. I was a little nervous. When I got in there, Lynn greeted me, and I began to tell I'm nervous, and I began to share some tears because some of you know that when I first started, I told everybody that I was crawling, and I'm going to take my time, and I let everybody know, even though people can say, oh, you're growing, but until you see yourself growing, then you can put your foot forward. So I actually said that. I said, I see myself growing. I see myself, standing up, taking little baby steps towards this, because like I said in my statement, diabetes to me is like a silent killer. And what I mean about that, like when you go to the doctors, and I did say this, when you go to the doctors, they don't take your sugar. They take your blood pressure. They'll take, put your hand, your finger for your oxygen. Mm-hmm. But they don't say, oh, let me just take your sugar on a regular basis. No. So I wanted to, foremost try to get that out and making sure I'm trying to start, when I go to my doctors, and I'm going to say, for me or anybody else that are diabetic, y'all need to start taking the sugars, or however the case may be. But that's a little bit up the road. But anyway, that was my plan. But overall, it was a good meeting. It was a good meeting. We had a young lady, I think her name was Eileen. She was telling us about the thing that goes under your arm, and she was saying how that works. And, I just had everyone, as far as their diabetes, because like I told Lynn, and I said it in the meeting, everybody don't have the same struggle. My struggle is snacks. I'm not going to sit there. I ain't going to sugarcoat it. It's snacks. Somebody else may be, the foot doctor. Some people don't want to go to the foot doctor. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. So that's where I want to try to like get the word out and try to see if we all could come together and just help one another.
Christine, when you go to the doctor, as you said, they check your blood pressure and your everything else. Is there a way for them to check right there your sugar levels? Yeah,
now they do the AC1 level, but that's every 3 months. But I'm saying, like, when you go in, like, far as my doctor, and I need to tell her to start doing this. When I go in and I sit down and you see the nurse, and she take your blood pressure and she takes your, your oxygen, but they don't turn around and say, oh, would you like for me to take your sugar? I mean, when you do go into the doctors and you are a diabetic, they don't ask you that. They definitely take your blood pressure. And so I was kind of concerned about that, even though you may go every 3 months, and that even though you take your AC1 level and they'll tell you what your level is, but as far as I know my doctor doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important to understand that you as a patient need to take control over that as well. So you should tell your doctor that they need to take your glucose. And if the doctor doesn't do it on a regular basis, then maybe you need to look at getting another doctor. Healthcare is no joke. And
Right.
but a lot of people think that they have to just be subordinate to whatever the doctors say, but no, you really have to take
Mm-hmm.
control of your healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I I think that's why it's so important for us as diabetics to be using the continuous glucose monitoring systems. Many people are just doing finger sticks, where if you were using a CGM and you get that A1C test, they can see what your average is
Right.
right then and there without drawing any blood. And
Right.
that's why it's so important.
Anil, you seem to have it kind of sounds like you've been through this, having to advocate for yourself. Tell us a little bit about how you came to join the Dan.
Well, first I have to vent since we're talking about this healthcare stuff. The reason I'm so serious about that is I get my physicals on a regular basis, and like Deb was saying, I have a history of diabetes in my family, mom, aunt, uncle,
Mm,
brother, sister, etc. Never really thought it would touch me uh,
mhm,
because I was very active. When I started getting sedentary, that's when things started getting a little worse. But my doctor did take my glucose reading, and she just said that I was borderline. Um, Nothing else. Yeah, so I left not thinking I need to make any change in diet or exercise or anything. So I was borderline. And then they changed the numbers where my borderline number actually officially made me a diabetic. Um, and of course, because I didn't alter any behavior at the time that I could have, the bad behavior got even worse. So when I was finally diagnosed with diabetes, now they want to get serious, where I wish they would have gotten serious earlier when they were borderline. But again, taking
Mm-hmm.
control of your healthcare is what you have to do. So listen to what the doctors say, do the investigation on your own. So I was active helping the Diabetes Action Network before I became a diabetic because of my role at the National Center as a staff member. So I became aware of, some of the interventions and those types of things just from a peripheral level. But luckily, when I did become diabetic or, officially diagnosed, I had a network of individuals. And I remember going to like one of the meetings in our New York affiliate, and their Diabetes Action Network group was meeting. And it was just interesting because, my doctor was telling me some things, but just sitting in that group of individuals, telling me the strategies that they use to take care of their diabetes. Debbie mentioned the continuous glucose monitor. I found out about the Freestyle Libre. Um, I, I found out the snacks that I could eat that would not, confront me in a way that would make it adverse to my diabetes. It was just a natural kind of organic learning through that sharing. And then, of course, the strategies that blind people use to deal with certain things, from not only using the equipment that we were talking about, but also strategies for cooking healthy meals, that type of thing. And I think that was the benefit. So as Christine already exemplified, as I like to try to do, once you start benefiting from that gathering, then you want to try to lend your time, talent, and energy to help supporting it. So when Debbie asked me if I would be willing to stand for election, I was more than happy to.
And while we're talking about snacks, why don't you just give a couple of hints on what the safe snacks are?
Well, for me, it's really kind of funny. It sounds kind of stupid, but boiled eggs.
mm,
I was sitting there and said, I know that everybody's talking about these sugar-free this and that. And I said, I just want something simple. I just want something I can just, put away. So in my refrigerator now, I probably have about 3 boiled eggs standing ready for
yeah,
when I get that little, stomach saying, feed me. I can go
yeah,
pop one in.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you were talking about the different the monitors, are all of these accessible? Are these challenging for people with either low vision or blind to use, or are they
There's
fairly
some
easy to?
equipment that's accessible, and I won't speak to all that, but I will take this time to give a plug to our advocacy and policy team that's working on legislation to really
Yeah.
require more medical devices to be accessible. But the Freestyle Libre is the one that I use. That's the continuous glucose monitor. I think that's what Christine was saying. Eileen was talking about at their meeting. It's a little bitty, I don't know, about the size of a little bigger than a quarter,
Hmm.
that you can use the device to attach to your arm. And all I do, because I have the earlier model, is I take my iPhone, which has the app on it, I hold it near that little sensor, and it'll read my glucose level. Much better than having to get my finger pricked every time.
Yeah. Yeah. And, maybe people don't know this, but this is important to the blindness community because blindness is, or diabetes, rather, I should say, is it fair to say it's one of the leading causes of blindness?
Mm-hmm.
It is the leading cause of blindness in our country today. And there are approximately 29 million people living with diabetes, and one out of every 4 isn't even aware that they're diabetic yet. So it's vital.
Yeah. And Christine, that is how you lost your vision, correct?
Yeah, I lost my sight through diabetes. Now, I'm gonna be honest because y'all know I'm honest. Mine was just not saying I didn't care, but I was just, I like snacks. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna be all right, yada 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 yada. When my eyes started getting blurry, so because at that time I'm a single mom, had 2 kids. I said, all right, I'll go to the dollar store or something, try on glasses. Okay, it worked. Then a couple months later, my eyes go blurry again. Okay, we back in the dollar store getting the upgrade of the glasses. Until one day, I kind of woke up and I'm like, wait a minute. I could still see a little bit, but I was like wobbly. And I said, wait a minute. That's when I went to the emergency, and that's where they let me know. So I really wasn't paying attention. And at that time, I didn't have insurance. So, they'll send you to the free clinic. And, I guess it was pride. I'm not going to no free clinic. I went every now and then, but I paid the price. So, which meaning when I became blind, it was hurtful. But years later, I had to chuck it up and, do what I can. But yes, mine became diabetes. So that's when I tell people now that are diabetic and they struggling, I tell them, please just take care of yourself. Make sure you take your medicine, whatever you have to do it. I said, because you don't want to be blind. You have vision one day and then you turn around and you don't have vision. And with me, I got to see my 2 daughters. Don't get me wrong. My youngest daughter was 12 and my oldest daughter was 24. I got to see my first grandson, but I have not seen the last 3. So that kind of bothers me a little bit because they come around and they're like, oh, grandma did it. So it's like things that I would like to see. And I wish I could go back in time and say, God, if I just only paid attention. You know how sometimes you wish you just had a
do-over.
A do-over. Now that you can look in the ball and be like, what do I see? You wish you could just see in a clear path. All right, if you don't take care of yourself, this was going to happen. You're going to be blind. But life don't work that way. But I wish I could. But I'm here.
And I'm sure these are the type of stories, Debbie and Anil, that you hear all the time, is that people wish that they had taken it more seriously. I am, just to share my own story, I am trying to get in front of this myself because I've been told I'm at the pre-diabetic stage. Maybe you can dispel whether it's fact or fiction. One is it reversible? And then 2, is there really no such thing as pre-diabetic? If you're diabetic, if your number is beyond normal, that's diabetes. And whoever wants to first take a stab at that first question, like 1, is it reversible?
No, diabetes is not reversible. A lot of people, I hear people all the time who will call and talk to me about their diabetes, and they say, well, I no longer have diabetes. I was told if I get off my medicine, I wouldn't be diabetic. And the truth of it is, once a diabetic, always a diabetic, but you become a controlled diabetic, and maybe you do get off all of your medicine, but you still need to not lead that sedimentary life. You need to watch how you eat. You need to exercise. And most of all, always ask questions at your doctors. When I was first diagnosed, my doctor at that time said, oh, you're starting to become metabolic syndrome. I'm like, metabolic syndrome. What do I have? I have asthma. I know that. Is that anything like that? And she, she didn't really explain much. And when I asked what I, was kind of afraid not to ask, all she said to me was, well, watch your sugar. And I thought, well, that's okay. I drink Diet Coke already. And I do this and this, but it wasn't enough. And I didn't know the terminology. So it's wise when they start throwing out words like that, ask them, what does that really mean? What is that? And talk to other folks too, because that's where a lot of your truth is going to come from.
The only person I've seen that you would consider diabetes got reversed was she got a pancreas and a kidney transplant. So
Right.
she got new organs and she was no longer diabetic. But it's really important, I think, to recognize that when you were saying you're pre-diabetic, that's what they told me I was borderline. I'm not insulin dependent at this particular time, so I'm kind of on that spectrum. So I have another crossroads, right? If I can take it seriously now and exercise more, start eating right, and not become insulin dependent, or if I continue to not take it seriously, the next thing you know, I'm taking insulin. So I think that what's important to understand is the pre-diabetic piece. I think that's probably true for more people than even realize it, because I just interpret it as we all just need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and monitoring our health in a real way, because it could happen. And my cousin really made it plain to me, because I got to the point where my sugar levels were down in the normal range. They were reducing the amount of the metformin I had to take, et cetera. And I was thinking, well, I'm good. I can just go on and do what I want to do. And he says, well, I wouldn't take that attitude, because if you don't continue to make those particular changes in your life, what happens with diabetes is you don't know until you know. And, I think Christine called it the silent killer earlier.
Yeah.
So it's not just a matter of where your sugar levels are, because diabetes is impacting other systems in your body. And again, you won't know until those systems are getting ready to shut down.
Yeah.
1 in 4 people are walking around with diabetes who are totally unaware.
I actually have always been very consistent with blood work. And, when it started during COVID, when I was trying out chocolate chip banana bread and apple cinnamon banana bread and just all of these things, as we were all stuck inside. And for the first time ever, my doctor warned me, like, your A1C is high. You're at that pre-diabetic stage. And ever since then, it's just been kind of hovering around that. So it can happen. It can happen to any of us. And I'm curious, Debbie, is that how you lost your vision? And Neil, you can share your story next.
No, actually, I had congenital cataracts and had only use of vision in one eye at birth.
Okay.
And then I decided I'll just try everything out. By the time I was a teen, I had glaucoma. Another 10 years,
Oh, dear.
I had 4 cornea transplants. And then after all of that, I had a retina detachment. And so, I thought, well, I'll just try it all.
Wow.
I feel you with that. I've had all of those things also, but still at least have a little bit of sight.
Yeah, no, I lost that one workable eye about a dozen years ago.
4 cornea transplants. That's wow.
Yes.
Yeah. I lost my sight due to retinitis pigmentosa. I was 25 years old at the time. It's supposed to be a slow, progressive deterioration of my retina, but I lost enough vision over the weekend where Friday I could read my computer screen. Monday when I went to work, I couldn't. Never read my screen. Yeah. In the beginning, too, of course, you want to make people feel sorry for you, that pity whole thing. But I'm just blessed that I found the NFB, because even what Christine was describing earlier about, being able to see her kids, grandkids, and missing that. I think that sometimes without the NFB, you get stuck in that space where you're just regretting so much. But we as an organization continue to reinforce to blind people that, you can't see, but you can still have quality life. And I think that's what's important, even in the instance that we're dealing with diabetes. So if we can teach people that despite the blindness, you can still take control of your health and you can still live the life you want.
I too was like that. I found the NFB 2 years ago, and it's really it has really been helpful, far as, like I said, Lisa, I always tell Lisa in the beginning, I'm taking baby steps, so she could tell you that was my saying. And I know she could see me growing a little bit, however the case may be. But the NFB have really helped me. And once I stepped on Miss Debbie platform in New Orleans in the diabetes seminar, I thought that was really, really great.
The first virtual meeting is scheduled for January. Tell us, what do you expect to, when is that, first of all? And what do you think you will accomplish out of that? What do you plan to accomplish?
Me and Ms. Lynn Heights, which is the president of the state affiliate, we decided every other month. Now, the reason why it's a Dan group, because Miss Debbie said start off as a Dan group, because sometimes you may get a lot of people, and then later on down the road, everybody start dwindling off, or, people not coming to the meetings. But we had set it for the third Monday of January from 7 to 8. And we're going to have this young lady named Marva Hall, her brother is going to come and talk about little exercises that we can do and nutrition. And I'm hoping Miss Debbie can be available that night, so that way she can introduce herself on the platform. But I didn't send the Zoom link out yet. We're still trying to get that together. But me and Lynn set it up for every other month, the third Monday of every other month.
Okay, so that would be the 15th?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's the 15th.
I would love to be a part of that. I did try to come to the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, you did. Yes.
And it just wasn't working, but I will be there on the 15th.
People do not have to be in our Pennsylvania affiliate to join this meeting, correct, Christine?
If I'm not mistaken, no.
I'll put the Zoom link in the show notes. Anybody that's listening will see the link there in the notes.
And before we even wrap up, all of you will have a chance to give your contact information. So if people cannot join Christine's meeting, I'm assuming, Debbie, there's other division meetings, Dan meetings that people might be able to join, correct?
Absolutely. And I'd like to put a plug in for our April for our April seminar called Knowledge is Sweet. And that'll be in St. Louis. Anil, do you want to say a little bit about it?
Sure. This is an in-person seminar that's taking place in St. Louis, Missouri. So people hopefully will be able to travel. It's April 26th and 27th. We're going to have panel discussions with blind individuals sharing their strategies, sharing their stories. We're going to have medical professionals, nutritionists, et cetera, individuals who deal with different types of technology to help manage diabetes. We'll have an exhibit hall. So it's going to be a really nice conference. So we're hoping that you guys who are listening to this particular podcast and have an interest will be willing and able to join us.
A yearly thing?
This is our first annual.
This is the first. Oh, wonderful.
It goes off well. We would like to try to look at having it annually.
Great.
And it'll be held at the St. Louis Airport Hilton, right across the street from Lambert Field.
So, Debbie, just before we have everybody share contact info or any other final thoughts, typically how does Dan support or come alongside the different Dans?
the Dan groups, yes.
The national division and the affiliate divisions.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Affiliate groups, yeah.
So
just tell us a little bit about that partnership.
Well, and as Christine mentioned, she's invited me to come to that meeting. We always love to attend affiliate Dan support meetings. We have, some of us have joined in state conventions through Zoom over the last few years. That allowed us all to travel with never leaving home. So that was one good thing about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're always here to support our fellow blind diabetics or their family members. Sometimes it's kind of a family a deal. You kind of need the support of one another. And I get calls every day from people wanting information and being connected with somebody in their state.
Right.
So, yeah.
And back to the original question you were asking about the structure, it also helps because through our national office, President Cabono uses this along with other divisions to manage the work of the Federation. So the National Dan Division, or Debbie's the president. She has that interaction with our national president. And then through the support, and well, actuality, the board members of the Dan represent different affiliate organizations. So Debbie, of course, is Missouri first vice president. Jean Brown, she's diabetes group or division,
Indiana.
Indiana. I'm active in the Georgia division. So the division itself is really how we connect all of our affiliates and the work that they're doing to our national office.
Our national board of directors of the Diabetes Action Network actually come from 7 different affiliates.
Do you all find that you have to keep up with the homework? I mean, the information comes out and changes. Like Anil, you were saying earlier how at one point your number that was just borderline and nothing to see here is all of a sudden, cause for concern. So do you find that you have to keep on top of the information that's coming out?
That's one of the purposes that the Dan divisions and the groups exist, because one person, it would be a full-time job doing so. I mean, just before this podcast, I got a notice from, I think it was CNN, that is linking some of the diabetes medicine to higher incidence of suicide or something. So, we have to be mindful. You have to be, because it does evolve and change on a regular basis.
Well, we are so grateful to all of you for your commitment to this, because we need you. We need folks to listen to us as we complain about our woes, and also to help guide us through the journey. And Christine, we are so proud of you, of course, of being so new to the Federation and already taking a leadership role. And we're also so thankful that you have the support of folks like Debbie and Anil to help you, spread your wings and help the rest of us. Well, Anil, we didn't give you earlier a chance to kind of expand on your role at the NFB. So if there's something that you want to share, any initiatives or any calls to action, what exactly is your role now at the NFB?
Well, I currently serve as the Executive Director of Blindness Initiatives for the National Federation of the Blind. And essentially what that means is I get to work with a dynamic group of individuals working on behalf of the blind people of America to improve the quality of education for blind students, create more employment opportunities for blind adults, to work on evolving access technology that allows us to access information, to live, learn, work, and play in our environments every day. And also doing research around blindness that's non-medical, because there's a lot of money being spent on trying to restore and save sight. But we want to make sure that the research has efficacy around quality of life for blind people, period. So it's a wonderful job. It's very challenging, but I enjoy the work.
Yeah. And if folks want to just learn more about NFB, where should they go?
They should go to nfb.org. And feel free to call us at our national office at 410-659-9314. My extension is 2374, so feel free to contact me directly. My email address is alewis, that's ALEWIS @nfb.org. But if you just have a general question, just email info@nfb.org.
And folks can also find out if there are any chapters or affiliates in their area if they go to the website, correct?
Absolutely. The website is just full of information, all of our chapters, divisions, affiliate contact information. You got access to our publications. It's just a wealth of information around blindness.
Debbie, final thoughts, and how can people contact you if they want to learn more about Dan?
Well, first of all, they can reach me at 573-268-6989, or they could email me at Debbie Wunder. That's Debbie with an IE, Wunder, WUNDER, @charter.net.
And Christine, tell us again the date, the time of the first support group, and anything else you want to share to have people log on, get people excited to log on.
Yes, it's going to be January 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. My email address is tiny, TINY, Buchanan, BUCHANAN, 1204 @gmail.com. My telephone number is 267-582-4803. So hopefully and prayerfully, I see you then.
Well, thank you all again for what you do and coming on. in talking about a very, very important topic, not only to the blindness community, but in general. It's a much more common condition than it seems to be becoming more common. Maybe that's the case too.
Every year, yes, more
the
and more.
numbers just go up and up, right?
Up and up. That's right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're affecting, it's affecting young people more and more every day.
So we've got some work to do. We've got to get that information out there to folks.
There you go. By listening to White Canes Connect.
That's right. And we appreciate you. Yeah, we appreciate y'all very much for having us on today.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, David.
Thanks again to Christine, Debbie, and Anil for coming on and sharing their thoughts about the Diabetes Action Network, the diabetes support group here in Pennsylvania that Christine has gotten off the ground. First meeting is coming up on January 15th, so make sure you tune in. The link is in the show notes so that you can get to that via Zoom on the 15th of January from 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, and this is really important. And if you have not had your numbers checked, as Christine says, everyone should be doing that on a much more regular basis. Tune into this meeting, and maybe she can even help you with some tips on how to broach the subject with your doctor. But again, I love when we can have people from other parts of the state, because I think it's just a great illustration for those outside of the Federation to know just how wide of a reach we have.
It really is. And something that Anil touched on about self-advocacy when you go into the doctor, and I am actually looking for a new doctor because the last time I went to my primary care physician, she kind of gave me the what for. Why was I there? And what did I want her to look at? It wasn't diabetes related, but it is something that you do have to take control. It's your health. It's not theirs. They're the ones who are telling you, hey, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And you've got to take the reins of your own health and advocate for yourself.
Yeah, and it's really important to do that. Like Debbie said, 1 in 4 people don't even know they're walking around with diabetes.
Yeah, that is a crazy number. And it's definitely something that you should get on top of, as well as make the switch with some better snacks, as Anil was talking about. Make the switch for healthier cooking, healthier foods. Sometimes it's difficult at the beginning, but it can be done.
And I will share my journey as I go through these diabetic coaching classes when they start.
This is something that you can reach out and you can tell them, hey, look, diabetes is the number one factor for blindness in the U.S. Maybe you should get it checked.
Yeah. So there you have it. Thank you again, Christine, Debbie, and Anil. And next month, February, is Low Vision Month. So we would love to hear from you. If there is something that you'd like to learn more about low vision, do you have some questions about what low vision is? Do you need help with some resources? Are you a person who has been diagnosed with low vision or living with it for some time? And would you like to come on and share some of your tips, tricks, questions? We'd love to hear from you.
And we'd also love to know, because I would love to know, I get called low vision a lot. And I don't know if it's because of the way I handle things. I consider myself blind. My vision, while I do have a little bit, is 20/400 on a good day. So how does that make you feel when you're with some blind folks and they say, oh, well, you're just low vision?
Yeah.
Well, how does that make you feel? So let us know. You can reach out. We've got a phone number, 267-338-4495. You have up to 3 minutes to leave your name and town and your thoughts, your concerns, or any other show ideas you may have, something you loved from a previous show. Anything you've got, 267-338-4495.
And you can also email us, and the email address is whitecanesconnect@gmail.com.
This was a great episode, Lisa, to kick off the year, especially with everybody at the beginning of the year always interested in doing things healthy. And this was a good way to start it, I think.
Very good way to start. So thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thanks for listening. Take care.